Good morning, and welcome to the Saturday Science of Mind conversation. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and I am excited about today's chapter. We start with chapter 1, In the Beginning, God. And today we are going to look at the beginning. The beginning. So I hope everyone has had a great week so far, and they're looking forward to the weekend. So feel free to chime in and feel free to um, call a friend or text a friend and tell them to come on in and let's expand our consciousness. And so today, as I said, we're going to begin with chapter 1, and the first section of chapter 1 is the beginning. The beginning. And so when we think about the beginning, we've heard many stories about the beginning of creation, the beginning of time, and from a different perspective. And good morning, Shay. How are you? Glad you're here with us today. Looking forward to an exciting conversation. And as we said this morning, we think about creation. And when we think about creation, there are various stories of what that is and how it came about. And as I was thinking about this lecture today, I came up, I was looking at the chapter, and it said this at the very beginning. We wish to discover what to believe in, why we believe in it, and why such a belief is reasonable. And insofar as possible, to enter into the nature of the invisible cause of this manifest life of ours. Now, that is the perennial question that has been asked since time, and is more commonly stated as, who are we, where did we come from, and why are we here? And why are we here? And so when we begin to really think about it, Ernest Holmes says it this way, that in the beginning that there was God, an infinite mind, intelligent spirit that goes by many names. And that creation is this self contemplation of God, that all there is, the consciousness of all things was contemplating on itself, on all of its aspects, of all of its self, if you will. And consciousness has always been there, always will be there. And in that beginning, there really is no beginning. There's this eternal unfolding of who and what we are, and who and what the divine creative force in the universe is. Because there's a perennial question as well that says, what is the difference, or what does the earth or the world or the cosmos look like from the creation standpoint or the immersion standpoint? Because that's two different pathways of what's happening. Now, from a purely creation standpoint, that means there was something outside of everything there is that created it and allowed it to have its way. From the immersion concept, there's this one thing and then everything else emerged out of it. So, and it is always connected. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get further in the conversation and we start looking at what we have with Ernest's teaching, religious science. We'll get into that. But Ernest said this: the universe is the results of the self-contemplation of God. I just want to come back to that, because from there, think about yourself and all the things that you've done, because we are made in the image and likeness of God. Think about what happens when you have a thought, when you have a self-contemplation of, I want to get a degree, or I want to get a new job, or I want to get in shape, or get a better diet, or a better relationship, or a more loving atmosphere about myself. It starts as a self-contemplation of what is present right now. And from there, we move into this idea of where we begin to really put things in motion. We set them in motion. And that's why this next point there says creation is an ongoing process of divine intelligence. So first there's this immersion, and once things emerge, then they begin to uh, evolve and transform themselves so that they become what we think. They become what we think. And so it's there that we really want to go. And I'm frozen here. I hope I'm still together. Let's there. I think I'm back in. If you're still with me, give me a sign. So, okay, I'm back. I don't know what happened there, and I hope everybody's still with me. If you're there, give me a high sign, a thumbs up, um, to let me know we're there. Hey, hey, I'm back. I'm back. I like it. I like it. And so when we look at this immersion of the divine, we look at it in its totality. And so one of the things that we have to look at, since there is a oneness in the universe, there is a allness of the universe, we want to look at how are the nature of the divine. We want to look at the nature of the divine. And so when we do that, this is what we're looking at. The universe is viewed as a vibrant, living entity that embodies the creative power of the divine, that empowers the creative perspective of the divine. And excuse my juxtaposing here. I'm trying to get it all back in. Okay, I think we're all the way there now. And so when we look at the universe, it's alive because it's the one living spirit. It is God Almighty, the thing itself, the creative force that is vibrant, that is intelligent. That is the beginning of who and what we are. That is the beginning of everything. It is this thought spirit thought. We will create some new words today because trying to describe the undescribable is a very challenging task. It's like gravity. No one has ever seen gravity, but we know it's there and we respect it. No one climbs on top of buildings and saying, I'm jumping off because I don't see gravity, therefore it does not exist. So what we do is we begin to learn the nature of this cosmos that we live in, and we begin to work with it. We begin to live within it, and we begin to unfold the unity of God itself. And so when we do that, we become closer to being who and what we were created to be. Now, the second thing here is this interconnection of all things. Everything in the universe is interconnected, highlighting the relationship between all forms of existence. All forms of existence. And then our thoughts play a significant role in shaping the universe, contributing to the fabric of existence. Contributing to the fabric of existence. Now, here, when we really understand that, and we need to contemplate this because these are the rules of the road, if you will. This is how we navigate and travel through the universe. We have to know that it is a living system, that one of the science points is for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction because there's a living relationship that's going on, and that we are connected. Because we appear to be two separate entities, that's not the case. We are one whole. Because the moment you have a other, if you're looking at oneness and there's something that's other, you have stepped outside of wholeness. You've stepped outside of wholeness. So there's an interconnection. And so really what we're looking at, and we've said this often, you're looking at a reflection of yourself or an aspect of yourself that creates the whole, that creates the oneness, that stands on this idea of unity. And that is what took place in the beginning of creation. That is what took place at the time that we have heard people call the Big Bang, the moment of the spark. However they describe it, this is what's happening. And a great example, we've heard the ancient aphorism that says, as above, so below, as below, so above. That shows us this parallel, this correspondence, which is one of the laws of our teachings, that there's a correspondence between everything. And so because we are religious scientists, I like to take the idea of science to heart. And so when I look at my body, when you look at your body, there is a oneness here. However, this oneness is made up of various components. And those components are interconnected. The heart is connected to the lung to the stomach to the liver to the kidneys. It's all connected in a oneness that allows, or connected in this unity that allows the oneness of me, the oneness of you, to continue to live, to move, and have your being in this thing called God. And so if you can imagine each and every one of us in that same context, that's what we're doing. That's what the beginning of this light is like, and that's how it was created. Now, some people may not like that analogy, but I think it's a very good one because it gives the point. And again, let's go back to the very beginning. It is a challenge to describe the indescribable. And so we use stories and metaphors and similes and all these things to help us understand what we're looking at, what we're dealing with, how we're operating. And so when we do that, we begin to now step into the creative process. And I think our founder, Ernest Holmes, was so brilliant in this process of describing it. And so I'm going to stop right there and see if anyone has any questions on this whole process of beginning. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, creation. In the beginning, this spirit intelligence said be, and it is. Because we're going to build on this story, and it's a ancient story, but it's a great story. And so when we look at this creative process, this is what we're looking at. It's a threefold nature of reality. We have spirit, law, and body. And of course, the analogy of our founder, Dr. Holmes, seed, soil, plant, is, I think that's one of the best things since sliced bread, as they say, because it really gives you an idea, a story, an image of what we are participating in when we look at creation. Now, this threefold nature, if we look at it from a Christian perspective, this is the Holy Trinity. This is the Holy Trinity. The seed, the soil, the plant. The spirit, the law, and the body are the manifestation of a thing. The thinker, the doer, the results. And so whatever we do, we should think of it in this context. We should think of it in this context because it gives us a visual image of what it takes to be creative, of what it takes to bring about a thing, to manifest, as they say. Now, this is what the divine creator did in the very beginning. It had all of these elements, and it said, be. And it allowed that thinker, that mind to imagine, to create, and bring forth all kinds of elements from the subconscious to come together. Now, we know from the stories of creation, in the beginning was light. And we now know from quantum physics, everything in the universe is light. And so when we begin to now, as our founder said, wait for that day, which is here now, for science and religion to walk hand in hand, we begin to see this story unfold even clearer. Because we know that everything is light or energy or frequency or a wave or a particle, which are all the same thing expressed in different ways. And so when we look at the emergence of this creation in the beginning, that's how it was this light particle or this light wave or this light frequency that began to express itself. And as a result, creation or immersion. Or if we're going to use creation, let's look at it not in a state of something outside creating something that's separate, because we are interchangeable. We are connected. Now, if you really want to understand this whole light energy vibration perspective of life, think about it this way. What you are hearing right now is a light frequency that's vibrating at a certain tone, rate, speed that are causing the eardrums and all the ear faculties to pick up and translate that sound that's unseen into something that you can realize, something that you can conceptualize. What you're seeing with your eyes is a light frequency at a certain rate, at a certain speed that allows you to see this image. If you rub your hands together, there is a frequency of touch. Same thing. Heat is a vibrational frequency of light. And so when we think about this creative process and we think about the thing itself, let's think of it in that way. Let's begin to add those concepts to it so we can really begin to interact with our world as masters. We're created in the image and likeness of the divine, who has created everything we see and can't see. So if we begin to take on that mantle, if we begin to operate from that perspective, we too can become masters of the universe. And we see it taking place in certain areas. And let's continue to do that in a way that is in line with harmony and oneness of all things. Now, one might ask, well, okay, we've been created, emanated from the Most High God, and we're here, and we have all these laws. What is our role in this ongoing evolution, this ongoing immersion of life. Well, here we go. Our role in creation, we are in co-creation, we are co-creators with the divine. So we do this by our thought that activates the law that gives us an experience. And when we can align with this divine law to shape our reality consciously, now we are stepping into mastership. Now we are becoming the captains of our soul. Think about that. Our thought activates the law. Those two things together creates an experience. That is the process of creation. That is the process of evolving. That is the process of aligning ourselves with the divine principle. And we most definitely create without thought. There's not a thing that is created by man and woman, if you will, or mankind, that was not at first a thought or any facsimile of a thought, whether it was an idea, an image in my mind. All of those are the same. Those are synonyms for a creative spark, a creative impetus that allows us to say be, and it is. And when you think about it, it takes an evolutionary step. It goes from a thought, as we said earlier, to creating an image, to figuring out what do I need to do to make that image real. And then we continue to go through this process of creation in the beginning. And so it is such a great story for us to contemplate, because we're creating every day. Every day we're creating. And so the more we can do that consciously, the more we can do that with an understanding of who we are, now we can create this world that you often hear us talk about, this world that works for all. This world that works for all, because that is what the divine creator did. It created this universe, this world that works for everything in it, because it took everything in it to create it. Say that again. He created it so that it took everything in it to create and sustain itself. Now, I can't, if by show of hands, which I might not see, how many people take vitamins? I'm sure a lot of people take vitamins of some sort. But there's a story that, rocks and minerals or things are not living things by some people's perspective. However, when you take that vitamin, it has iron and copper and magnesium and zinc and all these so-called rocks that we or some people look at as dead. These rocks, these minerals that are in your vitamin, you take them because they're all a part of you. And if you start getting a deficiency in iron, it will affect your blood. If you have too much or you get too little. Same thing with copper and magnesium to help bolster up your immune system. So you see that there is an interconnectedness in this oneness called you, in this oneness called us, that we must begin to look at very differently. Very differently. And when we do that, we become wiser, we become more tapped in, tuned in, and turned on to the divine. And captain of our ship, the masters of our soul, and captains of our ship. Now, the beautiful thing about our teaching from Dr. Ernest Holmes was this. I said it earlier, and I'm going to say it again because it's what I stand on. It is what brought me to this teachings, and that is this idea of religion and science. Religion and science. And so when I think about that, I always come back and look at the science of it all. The science of it all. And now we had regular physics, but now we have quantum physics and this whole idea of the observer effect and the unified field and all of that. And so we're going to go through that just a little bit. I know our time is getting near, but we're going to go through that just a minute here so we can be clear about what we're dealing with. Now, we know from a quantum physics perspective that this idea of quantum entanglement, that once two particles of light have been correlated, meaning they've had some relationship together, they've been together for a time, and they are understanding each other's frequency, if you will, that they are correlated forever. No matter where they are in the universe, there is always a connection. There's always a line of communication that moves faster than light. They've done many experiments to prove this. We also know from the double slit experiment that the universe can respond to our thoughts, can respond to our creative beginnings by saying be, by looking at the particle wave experiment. The particle wave experiment. And I won't go into it too much here. You can go look it up, the particle wave duality experiment. But it shows that by our attention to a thing, it affects it. It changes the way it represents. And it changes it in line with our thoughts. Now, we know we have a big world, so there are other things acting on it as well. But we do know from these experiments that as we begin to concentrate our observation on a thing, it changes. Look at a thing the way it is, it will only remain. But look at a thing as what it could be, and it becomes what it should be. That's how we have to move. That's how we have to move. We influence reality that way. We create that way. If you see someone on the street and you smile, 8 times out of 10, you are affecting that energy field and they will smile back. That's your influence on reality. And because we have this unified field, is what we often use in the scientific realm to speak of oneness and unity. Everything is there. There's a great book by Lynn McTaggart called The Field that speaks to this in depth about what this unified field is. And they have unified field theories of the universe that you can go deeper down that path, if that's a path that creates a fire within you. But we have to begin to be students of this teaching. It's a powerful teaching. It's a relevant teaching today more than any other. And to be effective in it and to really understand it, embody it, and be able to teach it, you have to get involved. And these are just some ways to look at some science and our ancient thought, bring them together and create an even bigger picture of what we're dealing with. Right. And so it goes on, it says here, before observation, all possibilities exist in a wave state. It's just all possibilities are here. But the moment we observe it, it locks in. It locks in. Now, it doesn't destroy everything else. It just eliminates them out of your observational view at this time. And once that happens, it begins to emerge into reality. Dr. Holmes said, science and religions are not opposite, but two sides of one truth. Two sides of one truth. Because we know there's never one side of anything. There's always two sides of it. We get into trouble when we pit those two sides against each other. And that's what we don't want to do. We want to be able to look at this teaching, look at this beginning, this creative process, and use it intelligently, the way it was created and meant to be, so that we can become, as Dr. King would say, drum majors for peace, drum majors for love, drum majors for innovation, drum majors for the sanctity of life, because we understand the creative process. We understand how this moves. And because it is an evolving, emerging, evolutionary process, there's this idea of the unfolding of it. The unfolding of it. If you take again yourself, myself, we started out as a thought in our parents' eye or in our parents' mind. And then we became this little tiny thing that got together and it evolved. None of us are the same as we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 seconds ago, because we are evolving. We're taking in more information, and this is the creative process. As we begin to become more aware of who we are, what we are, as we said in the beginning, why we're here, we begin to evolve. And when we activate this idea, we become true divine creators. And we participate in creation. And when we understand these light particles and these frequencies and these sounds of energy and light that are all synonyms for the same thing, we begin to understand the awareness of that and how we affect our reality and the reality of others. Because of this light energy sound frequency. Some of you may remember, and if you don't remember, go and Google it. I'm sure you can find it on somewhere on the internet. There was a commercial with Ella Fitzgerald. It was about a Memorex cassette tape, and they had her sing a note that resonated and shattered the wine glass because they were at the same light frequency, and when she created that frequency wave, it vibrated all of the particles that had coalesced into that glass and shattered them, put them back into a wave state. Well, that's what we have the ability to do. So when we understand these laws, we are emitting that frequency. And anything in that range, high C, low C, middle C, will begin to vibrate. It will begin to awaken that energy within, that light within. Because remember, in the beginning, there was only God. And if that's the case, we know because the quantum entanglement that we're always connected once we're correlated. And so when we come in these different frequencies, that's why music is such a great teacher to understand this teaching. Looking at different notes and frequencies and octaves and notes at various ranges. There's a kindred spirit there that causes everything in it to evolve. And so when we look at a final affirmation, if you will, I am one with infinite mind and my life expresses divine order. When we can step into this in that framework of this oneness, of this infinite mind, and that my life expresses it because I am correlated with the divine, then we begin to say yes. That is the sacred yes. We hear about the sacred yes, but the real sacred yes, I believe, is when we put ourselves in alignment and in tunement with all there is. With all there is. And so when we move forward, we look at this idea of consciousness in creation. The foundation of creation, consciousness serves as the fundamental starting point for all forms of creation influencing our reality. That's the first thing. Foundation. Ernest Holmes says thoughts are things. Next, This affects our individual consciousness when we understand that correlation. And by raising our consciousness, as Ella Fitzgerald demonstrated what's possible when you do that, shattering glasses, if you will, or breaking through barriers or breaking through stumbling blocks, we improve our capacity to manifest the outcomes we desire in life. Just like she shattered that glass. By raising our consciousness, raising our frequency, we can shatter those things that are blocking us. And once we do that, once we raise our consciousness, it enables us to be active participants in the unfolding of this thing called life. Active participants. And we need active participants more now than any time ever. We need skilled practitioners who understand the law, who practice it, who understand the oneness and the connected, so you don't begin to see others. You just see something that's out of alignment, something that is not in sync, not at the same octave or in the same note. And we begin to bring it into harmony by raising our consciousness, raising our vibration, and begin this evolutionary process of creation again and again and again. And so as we get ready to close, these are the things that I believe and what my understanding of Ernest Holmes' teachings are speaking to when we talk about in the beginning God. That there's this creative intelligence, this spirit, this light, this energy. Again, it's an invisible thing, a cause that we always seek, but it's not easy to find because it's invisible. So we come up with stories and metaphors to get that vibrational relation, that vibrational tinge that says, yes, this is right. That's what happens when you have an intuitive moment. You're in alignment. That vibrational oneness has hit you in a point of all the things that you've had experience with, and it comes into reality. So let's begin to act this way in life, that we are in touch with this invisible consciousness, this oneness that is expressed in a scientific point of view as the unified field, and that we understand that quantum light can appear and be expressed in many different ways. And as we change the level of consciousness, it changes forms. And when we do that, we truly become our masters of our soul, our brothers and sisters keepers, and those who go out and reshape and reform the world. Now, this last thing, how do we implement this stuff? I mean, because that's the thing. How do we implement it? What's the implications of this for understanding creation? The science of mind integrates science and spiritual perspective, offering a holistic view of creation. A holistic view of creation. Just like we sometimes may leave the rocks out, no one is stopping taking vitamins or certain medicines that has those elements that we sometimes not include in a holistic view. By exploring these perspectives, individuals can gain profound insight into their own creative potential and the universe. Just by being observant. And then the connection to the universe, the science of mind expresses our connection to the universe, encouraging personal exploration and growth. Quite simply put, that means life is not a spectator sport. You can't sit in the stands and eat popcorn and all of that and be engaged in life. You have to be an active participant. And that is what this whole creation story speaks to. And so I'll stop there and see if we have any questions or any comments. I know I went on there. I get excited about this stuff, so please forgive me. But if there's any questions or comments, we would appreciate them. This is an active practice, active process, active study to empower our lives and the lives of others. And that is what we're here to do. So if there are no questions or comments, I want to thank you for being here today. I hope you got something that you can take away, only if it's one nugget, one thing that will cause your mind to turn, that will cause you to look at life differently, cause you to go study something and then practice it, so that we become the ones we are looking for and create this world that works for all. And so with that, I say farewell. Thanks for being here. And I will see you next time. Peace and blessings.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.